My name is Kieran and I'm an online weight loss coach. I have been exactly where you are and I've transformed my life. So, here's my story. So for about 90% of my life, I have been morbidly obese. That means I haven't just been overweight, not just obese, I was topping the scale at 160 kilograms. I was huge. So where did this start? As a child, my dream was always to be a commercial airline pilot. I just wanted to fly planes. I loved everything about planes. But as you can imagine, my weight held me back from this dream massively. I mean, you can't have a fat pilot, can you? At least that's what the stereotype says anyway. My problem, which led to me gaining all this weight, wasn't the treats and the snacks. It was pure volume of meals. I would go over my friend's house to have food, just to come back over my house to have food in the same sitting. So you're talking double dinners. I did this multiple times a week. And because of all of these bad habits, by the age of 15, I was weighing 25 stone, or 160 kilograms. I was huge. And to be honest, I was in denial. I thought that I was fine, and I wasn't actually looking at the problem. I just used food as a coping mechanism to distract myself from who I was, which is really bad. And although it's the hardest thing to do, sometimes you need to sit down and take a look at yourself and decide, how long can you go on like this? I felt like life had limits purely because of my weight. It held me back from being happy. It held me back from achieving my dream of being a pilot. I hated having photos taken of me, and I hated going clothes shopping because it would remind me of how fat I am. At the age of 12, I joined the Royal Air Force Air Cadets, which is a uniformed youth organisation that helps kids learn the RAF and also learn to fly as well. Now, joining the Air Cadets morbidly obese, I didn't fit into any uniform because I was too fat, and I was also too heavy to go flying. This wrecked me because that's the one thing I always wanted to do, was to go flying in one of those planes, and I couldn't because I was too fat. So I quit. I left the Air Cadets for about 2 years, and then the lockdown hit and I went even worse. So that takes me on to the beginning of my weight loss journey. So after the lockdown in March of 2021, I decided to make a change. I returned to the Air Cadets and I started a weight loss journey. Then in October of 2021, I joined a gym, which I really enjoyed. I was in sixth form at the time in school, and during my free sessions I would go to the gym and I would stay in the gym for about 2 to 3 hours a session, and this was about 5 to 6 times a week. Just constant training. I loved it because it took me away from the real world, and I would just focus on burning myself out in the gym to go home and just sleep. But I didn't lose any weight during this time, and that may confuse you because I'm doing all of these intense sessions in the gym, so why am I not losing weight? I was trying to out-train a bad diet. You can't do that. When you're losing weight, nutrition has to be number one, otherwise you're not going to see any progress. And while I was training really hard, I didn't fix my diet, which just led to me holding my weight on a little bit longer than I should have. So, in my first year of losing weight, I lost 45 kilograms, which was a major achievement for me. I went from 160 kilograms down to 115, and I felt great. Still didn't look very good, and I went a little bit skinny on the shoulders, but I was happy that I lost weight. But when it all felt amazing and life was going my way, I hit a wall and I stopped going to the gym. I got comfortable, and because I got comfortable, I took a few weeks off, which then turned into a few months off, which then turned into a couple of years off. I regained the weight back in 6 months. What? You're talking a year of hard work gone. It's back up to square one. And I was furious. And I quit. I was ashamed of myself because I felt like I wasted my time getting the weight off in the first place. I felt like a fraud. And unfortunately, a lot of people experience this as well. That's because they treat weight loss like a phase and not a lifestyle change. But when you think about it, those bad habits that you had explained why you were so big. So don't slip back into those old habits because you'll just go back up in weight. The idea is to have a lifestyle change, but you got to take it step by step. In February of 2024, I decided to start my weight loss journey again. Why? Because I had somebody come up to me and gave me the truth that I needed to hear. They were brutally honest with me and said, "You've gained weight and you look like you've never lost it in the first place." And this sucked. I was angry at this person, but I was more angry at myself because I got myself to this situation. And as much as I was angry at this person, they told me what I needed to hear. I needed a redemption arc. And to be honest, them telling me that was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Because only a few weeks after, I joined the gym. I started again, started eating cleaner, and I started doing a bit of shadow boxing. Once I got about 10 to 15 kilos down, I started lifting weights, which I loved this, but it stopped my weight loss. I sort of stayed at 130 kilograms for a few months because, like I did before, I wasn't feeding myself right, and I was just simply training way too much. Now, while I was lifting weights, I did actually build quite a bit of muscle, and I was quite happy with this. But the thing is, you do need to prioritize which one is more important, losing fat or building muscle. Obviously, in my case, it was losing fat. So I needed to make a small change. And this small change ended up not being a small change. I went into boxing. This happened in September of 2024. I joined a boxing club near me, and I was pushed to my limits. And this was one of the best decisions I've ever made to lose weight. They had me sparring, they had me running, and I was constantly working out, as I love to do. But they fixed my diet, and I started losing weight quite quickly. In the following year, I dropped down to 100 kilos, which at the time was the lightest I have ever been. I felt incredible. I was still very nervous sparring because I was sparring people a lot more experienced than me, but I loved boxing and it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me that I could depend on myself. And to be honest, I recommend everyone doing some form of martial arts. In November of 2025, I had my first exhibition fight. It was against an opponent who was the same weight as me. We were both at about 94 kilograms at the time. And as it was both of our first fights, the technique wasn't amazing. We both went in there guns blazing. And to be honest, we both performed well. Ish. My opponent was disqualified in the second round because he kept dropping his head too low, which kind of sucked to be honest. But moving on from that, I went straight back into training, and then in the January of 2026, I rematched the same guy, and I won by unanimous decision, which was one of the highlights of my entire life. Because in my opinion, I put a stamp on something. I made a statement. The statement I made that night was that anybody can change. No matter what situation you are in, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And even though I didn't make that statement out loud to people, I made it to myself that I can rely on me. I haven't got to be tied down to this box and completely shut out my dreams because of weight. The bad news is, following this fight in January, I had a herniated disc in my spine, which I still have now. Therefore, I have temporarily hung up my gloves and I haven't returned to the sport since. I hope one day I make a return to boxing, but to be honest, I don't think I ever will. And that's okay, because I have still accomplished that one goal, to lose weight and to keep it off. Now, I use my story to help people like you make your own story, because I am sick of people thinking that their dreams are impossible. It took me 5 years, but I still did it. So if someone like me can do it, anybody can. And that's why I'm now a weight loss coach, because I want to make a positive impact on people's lives and help them reach their goals. My journey is far from over. I work every hour that God gives me to achieve one simple thing, to be the best version of myself possible. And you should have that same goal. And that is my story. So if you want to be a part of that journey, click the coaching inquiry link below and we can talk about it. I can get you to your goal. But I've also made a free 7-day plan to help you lose weight. The link for that is in the description as well. It's on my Skool page, which is a community page where you are joined by about 60 people in your exact situation right now, and it's working wonders. And like I said, it's free to join, so you'd be an absolute idiot not to. If you want to see more videos of mine, make sure you click a like and subscribe. Comment about your weight loss journey, maybe your story and some of the mistakes you've made along your way, and click the bell so that you are notified for future videos of mine. Keep grinding, keep working hard, and I will see you in the next one.